Anxiety, it's the sneaky voice in your head that makes you question everything, isn't it? But what if I told you it's lying to you? That the cycle of fear, overthinking, and sleepless nights is something you can break? Here's the truth. Anxiety isn't as powerful as it seems. You just need to know how to take back control. In this video, we're unpacking the secrets to rewiring your brain, breaking free from the anxiety trap, and finally living on your terms. So, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and turn on notifications, because the freedom you've been searching for starts right here. Demystifying anxiety. Anxiety often gets a bad rap, don't you think? It's painted as this monstrous force to be feared and avoided at all costs. But here's the kicker. Anxiety isn't inherently dangerous. Think about it. Our culture and media have a knack for amplifying fear around it. They sell us the idea that feeling anxious means something's catastrophically wrong. It's like calling cauliflower rice an abomination just because it's not real rice. Sure, it's different, but that doesn't make it bad, just misunderstood. This fear-based narrative creates a divide between us and our emotions. Anxiety becomes a villain in our mental health saga, overshadowing its purpose as a signal, a call to attention. Imagine being at a crossroads where one sign screams, "Danger ahead," but another whispers, "Slow down and reassess." Anxiety is that whisper. It's subtle guidance, not a death sentence. And the truth is, anxiety isn't always a problem to fix. It's a natural response, albeit uncomfortable, but often necessary. Much like a fire alarm, it's there to alert you, not to burn your house down. The real challenge is untangling when it's helpful and when it overstays its welcome. But let's not jump ahead just yet. There's something more subtle brewing when we begin to fear anxiety itself. The cycle of anxiety about anxiety. Have you ever been anxious about being anxious? It's a sneaky loop, isn't it? This phenomenon, called meta-anxiety, takes hold when we start fearing the feeling itself. Picture this. You're lying in bed, wide awake, stressing about how stressed you feel. It's ironic, right? This self-perpetuating cycle intensifies the very symptoms we're trying to avoid, like a hamster running faster on its wheel but never going anywhere. The more you focus on escaping anxiety, the stronger its grip becomes. This cycle shows up in everyday situations. Think about the nervousness before a big presentation. Instead of just feeling jittery, you might start worrying. What if I forget my lines because I'm too anxious? That extra layer of concern feeds the fire. Or maybe you've experienced it when struggling to fall asleep. Fretting about the consequences of insomnia only ensures you'll stay awake even longer. It's a cruel trick, but one rooted in the mind's tendency to catastrophize. The good news? This loop can be broken. Neuroplasticity and reinforcement of patterns. Your brain is like a garden. It grows what you water. When we focus intensely on negative emotions like anxiety, it's as if we're constantly watering weeds. This is where neuroplasticity comes into play. The brain's ability to reorganize and adapt means that the more attention we give to certain patterns, the stronger they become. Imagine replaying a bad memory repeatedly. It's like deepening a groove in a record. The deeper the groove, the harder it is to break free. Neuroplasticity isn't your enemy. It's your ally. Just as we can reinforce unhelpful patterns, we can also weaken them by redirecting our focus. Let's say you catch yourself spiraling into anxious thoughts. Instead of feeding them, you could shift your attention to something grounding, like the texture of a soft blanket or the rhythm of your breathing. Over time, this practice starts to rewire your brain, creating new, healthier pathways. Anxiety as a natural response. Anxiety often gets a bad reputation, but have you ever considered that it's just your body's way of protecting you? Think about it. Those racing thoughts and sweaty palms are part of a built-in alarm system designed to keep you safe. It's a natural response, like your body saying, "Hey, pay attention. Something important is happening." The trick is understanding when this response is helpful and when it's simply overstaying its welcome. Occasional anxiety, like before an important exam or during a first date, is perfectly normal. It sharpens your focus and keeps you alert. But chronic anxiety? That's like having your car alarm blaring for hours over a leaf falling on the hood. The difference lies in how long the signal lasts and how intense it becomes. Learning to recognize these patterns is the first step toward navigating them effectively. So, instead of viewing anxiety as the enemy, what if we saw it as a misunderstood friend? It's there to guide us, not to harm us. The key is building a relationship with these feelings, understanding when to listen and when to redirect. Strategies for coping with anxiety. Coping with anxiety doesn't have to feel like an uphill battle. One powerful approach is acceptance, acknowledging those uncomfortable feelings without judgment. Instead of fighting anxiety, what if you treated it like a guest in your home, not a permanent resident, just someone passing through? For example, when anxiety knocks, you might say, "I see you. Take a seat, but don't unpack your bags." This shift in mindset can be surprisingly freeing. Another technique is pendulation, the art of shifting focus between your internal sensations and the world around you. Feeling anxious? Try grounding yourself by noticing 5 things you can see or hear. Then, gently return your attention inward to observe your breathing or heartbeat. This back and forth creates balance, helping you manage overwhelming emotions without becoming stuck in them. Lastly, redirecting your attention to what truly matters can work wonders. Think about your core values. What's important to you? The paradox of anxiety. Here's the paradox. The harder you try to push anxiety away, the stronger it seems to grow. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The more force you use, the more it fights to resurface. Anxiety thrives on resistance, feeding off the energy we pour into avoiding it. What if, instead of battling it, we simply let it float alongside us? This shift can feel counterintuitive, but it's often the key to breaking the cycle. Take, for example, the classic phrase, "Nothing to fear but fear itself." It's not just poetic, it's practical. The fear of anxiety magnifies its symptoms, creating a self-fulfilling loop. Imagine standing in line for a roller coaster, your heart racing as you dread the drop. If you focus on that dread, it amplifies. But if you lean into the excitement, reframing the sensation as anticipation rather than terror, the experience shifts dramatically. Accepting its presence doesn't mean giving in. It means refusing to let it dictate our choices. Practical examples and real-life cases. Imagine receiving a letter about legal action. Your heart pounds, your palms sweat, and your mind jumps to the worst-case scenario. It's anxiety, loud and clear. One way to handle this is to acknowledge the feeling without letting it spiral. For instance, take a deep breath and focus on what you can control, reading the letter carefully and seeking advice. Or think about family interactions during the holidays, where tensions might run high. Anxiety might creep in as you anticipate difficult conversations. Instead of letting it dominate, try reframing the situation. Focus on one positive thing you can bring to the table, whether it's a kind word or simply being a calm presence. Avoiding these feelings altogether can backfire. Take someone who avoids driving due to anxiety over accidents. The more they avoid it, the more the fear grows. When they face this fear gradually, perhaps by driving around the block first, it sends a message to their brain, "I can handle this." 5 key skills for managing anxiety. The first key to managing anxiety is recognizing it for what it is, just a feeling, not a threat. Think of anxiety like a storm. It can be intense, but it always passes. The second skill is making space for anxiety instead of resisting it. Picture your feelings as clouds in the sky. You don't have to chase them away. Just let them float by. One way to practice this is through mindfulness exercises, such as observing your breath or doing a body scan. This trains your brain to coexist with discomfort without being overwhelmed. Redirecting your focus toward actions that align with your values can help anxiety take a back seat. Combine this with pendulation, shifting attention between your inner state and the external world, and acceptance of what's beyond your control. Together, these skills build emotional resilience and empower you to face challenges with confidence. Managing anxiety takes time, but small, consistent steps can lead to powerful changes. By practicing acceptance, you reduce its hold and train your mind to respond differently. When you focus on what truly matters, your values, goals, and meaningful connections, anxiety begins to take a back seat. It's not about erasing it entirely, but learning to coexist with it while prioritizing what brings you joy and purpose. What's one step you can take today to change how you respond to anxiety? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your progress. Remember, small actions create big shifts, and persistence always beats perfection. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Let's keep growing and learning together.